No, it's a kind of a description of what happens embryologically.
Okay.
So we start out as embryos as a clump of cells, 2 cells, and then they divide and they divide, and they're all identical through the whole first week of development. Through most of the second week, implantation happens, and in that process, in the process of the second week, they transform from a clump of cells into what's called a bilaminar disc. And they are like this. A front layer, yellow, we're going to call endoderm, and a back layer, blue, we're going to call ectoderm. Not that I made up the names. So this front layer and this back layer exist for a while as the bilaminar disc, and there's a space in front of it that's called the yolk sac, the space behind it that's called the amniotic cavity. And this whole thing is embedded in the uterine wall, and it's the size of a dot. Yeah, it's tiny. So then what happens is another layer develops, and it grows into the middle.
That must be the pink piece of paper.
The pink piece of paper. It's called the pink piece of paper. It's called the mesoderm. So then we end up with a trilaminar disc. 3 things. But it's flat. It's relatively flat. It's not quite this flat, but it's like a pancake with 3 layers. The mesoderm is kind of the filling in the sandwich. Now the thing that happens that's so cool is that somehow we go from being a disc to being a 3-dimensional structure, and it's called the folding of the embryo. What happens is the 2 sides of the embryo fold together so that what was the front layer, the endoderm, ends up on the inside. And it ends up, all of that endoderm stuff ends up being the lining of our gut tube. So the things that come from the endoderm are the lining of our gut tube, our lungs, our esophagus, our stomach, our liver, our pancreas, our small intestine, our large intestine, rectum, all the way down to the anus. So we end up being this structure that has an inner tube, the yellow on the inside, innermost, and then the blue on the outside. What was ectoderm, it ends up wrapping around and